Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙤. Today is episode 390 of Daily Global Insights, and joining me is our co-host 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙀𝘀. Sridharji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar. Good morning to everybody, or early good evening to you. Good to be back.
Sridharji, on Monday morning saw the Dow drop about 500 points on what was happening in China. And now, again, there appears to be some sort of a stabilization. How does the market look like today, sir? Because everything now centers around market, because that is a true reflection of all the geopolitical conflicts around the world.
Well, all the indications are that the Asian markets were up. The Hang Seng was up. The Hang Seng was up about 5%. Then the Shanghai was up about 2%. The Dow futures looks positive, about not even, basically 20 points. We'll see how the day pans out. The key message that is coming out is the Chinese regime says that the situation is in control. The protesters have been persuaded to get back. They will be addressing the zero COVID policy issue, and the vaccination process would begin for the elderly, which seems to have been the epicenter of the spread, and slowly downplay this zero COVID policy and allow more freedom to the people. This is Chinese propaganda machine. So on the basis of that, and whether the protests have been put out, we don't know. But on the basis of that, the markets have reverberated or reacted positively, Sriji.
Overall, there is a challenge that the globe faces, and that is supply challenge because of what is going on in China, not just because of these riots, but over a period of several months, because of zero COVID, because of other logistical problems. A case in point is Apple. Apple is not able to make its iPhone 14s, and this has been going on for a while. People have been promised it's coming tomorrow, it's not happening. Although they have tried putting some plants in India, the reality is that it's not just assembly, you have to have all the basic parts, and even those basic parts, some of them are being manufactured in China, and those also have been disrupted. Sridharji, how do you see this thing play out? When do you think even a semblance of normalcy is going to return to the supply chain problems?
Well, I think the supply chain is not going to be solved overnight. The supply chain issue will eventually be mitigated through a finely transitioned transformative process, which will take time. Analyst after analyst over the past 2 days have identified 4 specific parameters. What they say is capacity, skills, technology, and the ecosystem. These 4 elements, scale, these 4 elements have played a significant part in China over the last 10, 12, 15 years to build capabilities, let us say in the case of Apple, let us say in the case of chips, let's say it's in the case of some industrial manufacturing, or let's say textiles. So what they say is that, everybody can say we are transitioning, but these 4 factors give China the strength for the present, for the immediate future. The fact Apple is reporting that it is going to be in short supply to the tune of 6 million iPhones for the iPhone Pro because of the issues in the Foxconn factory is just a reflection of what the capabilities that China has been allowed to build by the manufacturer without a contingency plan in place. Automotive industry, at least you have a contingency plan. Some of the other defense equipment, you have a contingency plan. But some of these high-end electronic items where people have written themselves a no disaster recovery plan option, and that's what we are facing today.
So all we are talking about single point of failure, and that single point appears to be China in this case.
Exactly, Sriji. You just hit the nail on the head, which is to say it's a single point of failure with no redundancy. Of course, India, they're building the not iPhone Pro, but the iPhone 14, but it's going to take some time. And at least TSMC is doing the wise thing by building up capacities, and it knows how to rapidly build up semiconductor fab factories. And so the story is that it has always had augmentative capacity. So I think on the chip side, China may be impaired and TSMC will prevail. But on some of these high-end electronic devices where they have built no redundancy, China will continue to sway the supply chain, Sriji.
Thank you, sir. And now let's take a look at what is happening in Europe. Sir, I'm aware of European Union. I'm also aware of Eurozone. What is European Council? Its chief has gone to China to meet with the leadership there.
Economic Council. The EU
Okay.
Council, the Economic Council. So he has gone there, Charles. He will be going there, not gone there. He'll be going
Okay.
there. Charles Michel will be going. And he's going to reassess negotiations and trade assessment strategy. Remember, this is on the back of the visit by the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who almost was bowing down to the Emperor Xi. If you actually play back that video, it's almost like bowing to the Emperor. And Mr. Xi, graciously kind of asking him to come, meet him. So the situation here is that there's a worry in EU whether EU is going to bend backwards, which is contrarian to what the government is attempting to do. Where is the EU governments, not the EU government, but the various governments in Europe, which are trying to do as far as China is concerned. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he will take a hard stance. My point is that none of these leaders, these second-tier leaders, are capable of holding on. They are not. I forget Doctor the guy's name who negotiated for President Trump. These are not such caliber people, and so there's going to be another bend down kind of a situation, and he's going to come back, and the EU is worried.
Sridharji, is Olaf Scholz an acolyte of the outgoing Angela Merkel?
Well, he is he's a mirror image, except that Angela Merkel created a monster called Russia. We haven't discussed this is an issue which is being discussed at length, which we'll cover in the subsequent, during the future daily DGI programs. When she allowed Russia to create a Nord Stream direct connection, Nord Stream 2 direct connection into Germany, bypassing all other countries, most importantly Ukraine,
Yes.
which was the energy hub, it was a deliberate ploy which she was conscious, and she allowed that to happen. Okay, and that could have also compromised many other EU countries. And lo and behold, the question that's being raised is, how did Biden administration allow that to kind of get through? So on that basis, Olaf Scholz is going to be equivalent on the China version. The reason is he's got a lot of pressure from his region, Hamburg region, which is epitome of industrial Germany. He's got a lot of pressure, and so therefore I think he wanted the port deal. He wanted the business deal to be consummated. All this is kind of remnants of your World War II situation, how the alliances developed based on convenience, but not on the strategic kind of the play. So there's a little bit of a worry on that front. So to your point, Olaf Scholz, yes, he's a mirror image of Angela on the other side.
Sir, I asked this question because I had a couple of observations, and nobody's going to say, yes, this happened or not, but these are all things where it is being widely talked about. Number one, Russia used to say that the reason we are invading Ukraine is because Ukraine is stealing our oil, especially all the oil pipelines that are going through Europe to Ukraine to go to Western Europe. That was their allegation. Now, Nord Stream 2 kind of solved that. Now, the other more interesting thing, which has not been played up a lot, I've heard it only in a couple of places, but these people are very, very sure of their sources, is that Angela Merkel got an organ transplant in China. Mr. Xi's gift to her. Now you understand how much EU is beholden, because Germany is the leader of EU, whether we accept it or not. And, this happened a few years ago. And after that, Germany hasn't been the same, sir. You look at Germany. When Angela Merkel took control, she was there for 12, 15 years. A lot of things happened. And then slowly they started moving towards China. In fact, Germany's calling card is heavy engineering, things that other countries won't take up, the Siemens of the world. And China has now, if you look at some of the cranes, the world's biggest cranes are manufactured where? China. You see where I'm going with this? So anyway, this is just something that I wanted to share with our viewers. Are you there, sir? I see your face is very
No. I think that the what I'm trying to, I mean, I didn't, without getting into the political kind of connotations and the backdrop, the German industry has historically, if you look at any of the geopolitical plays that is happening, one of the questions that people ask is, how does finance and banking fit into the geopolitics of the world? The geopolitics of the world is driven by trade, commerce, and underlying that is security. Trade and commerce is underpinned by finance. Whether you are running a war, you need money. Whether you want to stop something, you need money to stop. So the banking and finance underpins the trade, industry, commerce, and overarching of all that is the security parameter. So therefore, if you use that framework, Germany wants to preserve, because the reason is Germany is a net exporter, and to earn more surplus, cost of manufacturing is also critical to them. But like the US was foolish during the Henry Kissinger's time, without getting any guarantees, getting them access into WTO, and today the world is paying the price, which is why the reason why the renminbi doesn't toggle go beyond 7.2. It's always between 6.5 to 7.2. All of the currencies have calibrated. So therefore, the reason is that the Germans have realized that somehow ally with an economy, and mind you, they have had a long and historical association with India, but who are the people who are doing major deals with India? People like France, UK, even Scandinavian countries, but not Germany. So you have an issue with Germany in terms of what its strategic priorities and how it aligns itself. It sees itself as innovative manufacturing power, and therefore, which is the big manufacturing power? It is not United States. We destroyed it. It is now China. So there is, forgetting all those things, this is where this thing is going. Whether they don't realize, soon their manufacturing will be swamped over. Okay. Similarly, Italy, we haven't touched. Italy has had similar issues when it decided to subcontract and set up factories, especially for its fine leather and textile that it used to manufacture. Already it is seeing the remnants of it. There was a lot of pressure for the Italians to allow the Chinese in. Go back and study in 2020. Go back to March, April timeframe. We touched on this little bit in DGI. The first COVID originated outside of China in somewhere around Italy. And then from there, it came into United States. Many people who were on either Italy or Switzerland vacation came back into United States, and East Coast had the first hit of significant COVID. So, I mean, I know we went on an expansive aspect around the theme that you have alluded, but yes, very much this is the case, Sriji.
Pardon us for kind of deviating from our script today, but these are all important nuggets because one thing leads to the other. You mentioned Henry Kissinger. Sridharji, I did go and watch Vice, VICE. This is available on Netflix. This is the story of Dick Cheney. Guys, any one of you who want to know where things are today and what led up to this, go back and watch that movie, VICE. It's on Netflix. It's on Amazon Prime. You can't miss it. And it's 2 hours of the best investment you can possibly make because it makes clear all the things that happened in America. All of that is now beginning to reflect here. Yeah. So it's a must watch. Anyway, I saw it in one sitting.
Thank me, Sriji, for I don't watch that many serials or movies. But after I watched that, my son recommended, so I watched that movie, and I just a recap of I'm grateful that you watched the movie, and it is an encyclopedia of what has transpired. Some of the things and dialogues that you will hear is quite amazing in that specific movie.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, there was a repeat of what played out in that movie in real life. We'll come to that on a different day because I want to leave a hook for the viewers. Watch this thing, 𝙒𝙗, VICE. And thank you, 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥, for recommending it. I'm usually not able to sit at one point and watch. Yesterday, I said I'm going to watch this thing because too many points I had to connect, without understanding the basis. See, I migrated to US only in the 1985. By that time, a lot of the new world order had been established. You see, now you're playing out the end now. It's at the end now. So a lot of things to be watched there. Let's go back to our news. Sorry for this diversion. Laos President to visit China for 3 days, commencing Tuesday, to further cement their partnership. In the entire ASEAN, Laos has been a very faithful ally of China, isn't it, sir?
Laos has been a very faithful ally. Laos remains the umbilical cord from a rail connection. So it can move wagons of commodities and materials, and it can also move the PLA very rapidly. And Laos is very close proximity to Myanmar, and with Myanmar into the other kind of strategic regions, a flank that they are aspirations to, especially as India is concerned. So Laos has surrendered itself. It is economically and financially reliant again on China. So therefore, this visit, 3 days, Laos President is going to be hosted by Emperor Xi.
Yes, indeed. And there's a nice comment there. And I would again like to segue all our viewers' attention. Do watch the 8 p.m. program that I have with Kumaraswamy. He is a veteran corporate person who has worked in many blue chip Indian companies. And he's going to be joining me to talk about creating informal jobs in India. How does one go about it? Because informal sector does not come under the purview of the government. This is something that has to grow organically. So I urge you to watch that. Let's go to the next news item. So sorry, sir. Today we are going a little off and on, but it's a good conversation for viewers who are watching. Rishi Sunak sends a powerful message that golden era of China is over, and now we are witnessing an authoritarian regime that has little respect for international norms and law. Was this before or after the messaging started, sir?
No, this is just yesterday's press release. I mean, his press briefing, which is effectively to state that he has been steadfast, both on China and Russia. He has been steadfast from day one, which is effectively to say, play by the rules. If you don't play by the rules, then, don't be part. You don't want to trade with us, no problem. No trade. We'll trade with ASEAN, we'll trade with Japan, we'll trade with India, we'll trade with those partners. Many of these rules, India has a plethora of challenges, but some of these rules, thanks to the team of Prime Minister Modi and his, trade, commerce, external affairs minister, they've laid down the groundwork that you can work with the rest of the world. If you can move things forward. So this is Rishi Sunak. He remains very brave and bold in making the statement. The only other person whom we can bring from the other part of the world, from the same part of the world, is Emmanuel Macron, the French president. And the most laudable amongst them are the smaller Baltic states, ex-Baltic states, and the Eastern European nations, which about 10 to 12 of them have stood up and basically said, we are not going to have another dictator and communism, and we have suffered enough. These are the nations that are standing up, Sriji.
Yeah. And even as we are talking the mainline news, I'm seeing comments about the movie Vice. I thought Amy Adams, the wife of Cheney, she really stole the show. Christian Bale is very good as Dick Cheney, but Amy Adams is worth watching. Guys, just watch it. Let's talk about it later. Also, 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙤, when Rishi Sunak was duking it out with Liz Truss for the prime ministership, that time he had come out with some sort of a China document, and I had discussed this in detail as a monologue. I think we had a hiatus at that point on DGI, and I had shown how he is he has a very, very firm view on how he's going to deal with China. And I think that he's sticking to that. You are absolutely right, sir. He's been consistent. So that's good. And let's see how that plays out. Next question, next topic that we are going to talk about is that Indonesian military chief calls for more expansive and stepped up military drills and cooperation from other nations from 2023, fearing further Chinese incursions. Can we have the map, please? Thank you. Sir, take it away, sir.
Yes, if you can see, there's a Natuna Islands, which is stuck right between Malaysia and Indonesia. This Natuna Islands is the centerpiece of fishing and most important for the Indonesian fishermen. This area is now being encroached by the South China, by the Chinese patrol boats and also the Chinese Navy. Remember, last year, China enacted a policy that patrol boats can now be empowered to act as a naval boats and they can fire on fisher vessels. So, right, we covered this again in DGI.
Yes.
This is the area of contention, and Indonesia is saying this is a very, very rich fishing economy for Indonesia. And this 9-dash line, which we covered about 2-3 episodes ago, effectively, you look at the 9-dash line, every part of every other country's sovereign little islands, China thinks it owns. We have talked about it, we haven't covered. We are going to do a special show on what does really China own in South China Sea and what did China have in a historical context. When we do the show, you will get to know what the truth is and whether the emperor really has clothes.
Sridharji, allowing Spratly Island to spring up from nowhere in the middle of the ocean was a huge mistake. I mean, you can say US is patrolling all the world's waters. How the heck did they allow that to happen? That happened under, I think, Obama's watch. I could be wrong. That was a huge mistake, sir.
Huge blunder. That is a very famous phrase. We lead the world from behind. I will not forget.
Right.
Yeah, we will send the bombers. The bombers have no bombs. Then what is it? That's what we did in the United States. We sent the bombers, right? But they were not They had no weaponry in them. So China says, "Are you making a fool of yourself by sending these planes?" I mean, I'm not a joker. Well, that is Mr. Obama's leadership qualities.
Yes, Obama's cousin brother lives in China. He has been living there for many years. Connect the dots. That's all I can say. Let's go on to the next news. So this is very significant. Taiwan, the ruling party, has lost several mayoral elections. The two main ones being Taipei and Hsinchu, and these are the economic engines of Taiwan. And this has led to the president Tsai stepping down. Is she stepping down from the party chairmanship, or she also stepped down as the president of the country, sir?
No. Only from the party chairmanship leadership, she has stepped down, accepting ownership for the defeat. I think she played too much on the China card rather than focusing on what are the things that she should be doing, she will be doing on various aspects. So I think Mr. Xi Jinping has got this wrong. Nobody, even the present, I forget the name of the party that won the elections.
It's a Kuomintang party related.
Yeah, Kuomintang party. But they did not fight the election on reunification. They fought the election on how to address the issues and improve. Also, COVID was a little bit mismanaged by the leadership because their whole focus was around diplomacy, foreign policy, and those kinds of aspects, forgetting that there are people living day in and day out. Rightly so, I think she only won 5, and 21 of those mayoral plus local election seats went to the opposition. So it was a very stellar defeat for her in the local elections.
Yeah, we seem to have some audio difficulties, but I think it is all right now. So bear with us as we work through this. Nothing from our side. It is probably something from the server end. But let's move on to the next item. Russia denies claims that it is withdrawing from the nuclear pact and that it is still in control. This is Zaporizhzhia, sir?
Zaporizhzhia, yeah. So UN nuclear watchdog, the Ukraine nuclear watchdog basically said they are withdrawing They see signs of withdrawal, but Russia has denied it is withdrawing. This kind of information, disinformation campaign goes on. Is the fogs of war, but the fact that Russia has acknowledged that it is not withdrawing means that they're still boots on the ground.
And the other challenge that Ukraine has been having is that they have been enveloped in darkness. I think they are bringing back their power plants. From what I have read recently, they are up, I think, 60 to 70%, but not fully up. So people are grappling with cold, with lack of heating, and now lack of electricity also. So they are going through hell right now. I don't know how this is going to play out. Now, the next topic is very, very important for the future of gas prices. Sridharji, we touched upon this while we started out. Yesterday to today, the West Texas Intermediate and the Brent have had a jump. And now comes news that the OPEC Plus, which includes Russia, is thinking of cutting supply, which means the cost is going to go up. Now you have one side a control trying to be imposed by the West Europe on Russia's crude, $62 to $70. On the other side, OPEC wants to reduce production, which means automatically the price is going to go up. Where do you see all this going, sir?
Well, I think that first and foremost, this, you remember the United Nations or the G20, G7 imposed price cap. They wanted Russian supplies to continue, but you want to have price cap, but they never decided what the price cap is. So EU is now negotiating and saying that because they are the biggest buyers, 40% comes, their 40% of the requirement comes from Russia. Yeah, they're talking about $62 to $70 kind of a range. And I don't know whether it would be accepted. All one needs is supply constraint. Automatically, this price band goes out of the window. So Russia is using its leverage. Iran is using its leverage. And Mr. Biden has done no favors with the king of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Mohammed Salman. So he's also saying, the supply aspect of it is our control, is not your problem. So therefore, they're all going to collude and effectively say, we're going to cut further supply. And now if China is coming back into the market, let's say sometime next year, because this year is done, Q1, Q2, the price is only going to go up. Price caps go out of the window. It really is a very, very silly decision to put price caps and constraints. And there are various ways by which they can deal with Russia. But again, it's another failure on international order in terms of they're not managing supply chain. They're actually disrupting and distorting the supply chain and further fueling the inflation, Sriji.
And Finland and Sweden step up military aid to Ukraine, and the Baltic states led by Estonia request the EU to step up military spending plans. This is to help Ukraine. See, this is a seesaw battle now. There are days when Ukraine seems to have the upper hand, and then there are days when Russia is stepping up air campaign, bombing back and forth all over the place. Really, we've been talking about this. When is this going to stop? Because that's where the whole thing started. Any ideas if these guys are going to sit down and talk again, sir?
No war has ever ended. A Vietnam war did not end for years. The Afghan war did not end for years. The most recent Iran-Iraq war did not end for years. They're still lingering. The war in Syria has not ended, and it will go on. The Turkey-Kurdish region war has not ended. The India-Pakistan skirmishes in Kashmir has not ended, going on. The China-India skirmishes has not ended. Now the South China issues is there day to day. So to me, as we kind of predicted this will be a civil war because the eastern area continues to have the Russian footprint. Russians have a significant Russia-speaking people within Ukraine. So this is not going to end. This will go on. And who knows, unless there is a leadership change on either side, both sides, and both sides can talk some sense, this will not end, Sriji.
And viewers, we have some stunning news coming down. Now we have news about America. Many Americans want the Hunter Biden probe to be done. So now the House is in a position come January. And yesterday I had put out one monologue about Ilhan Omar, whether she is a Qatari asset or not. because there is a lawsuit that is wending its way through US courts where there's been a lot of testimony given to that effect. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, with Kevin McCarthy saying that he will make sure that Ilhan Omar doesn't belong to any committee, and he has said a couple of other names also. Sridharji, in reality, I'm talking about dollars and cents here. Let us say January 30th. Do you really think the Republicans will be able to go through a probe that will, determine without any doubt that there was hanky-panky, sir?
Well, first and foremost, as the committee is being established, Mr. Comer is going to head this. Then Jim Jordan is going to be heading the judicial part of it. What they're saying is that the first thing is the subpoena on the bank. So they have already seen, but they can't publish it unless it is through a subpoena, where they will demonstrate bank transactions reflecting. The second, they have got a lot of voice recordings and voice messages which they have heard, all from the whistleblowers. They're going to, play that out. What you're going to see is anecdotal evidence coming to the floor and public being made aware. Whether they will, in none of these things, whether they will prove through a judicial process, that will take time. But there will be enough evidence presented for people to draw their own inferences whether there has been a compromise.
Sridharji, if I remember correctly, there have been talk about people having in their possession copies of the encashed checks. I think Wells Fargo Bank, if I remember correctly, of the money coming into Hunter Biden's account. I mean, it's conclusive. There is no. I was wondering, why did GOP hold back at that point? This was about 4 months ago. Maybe that is because they had a gut feeling that we'll be able to do more if we have the majority in the House, which is why now they are sharpening their knives. I don't know. Let's wait and see how it goes. You want to add to that?
No. They are not in majority. The subpoena has to come from the Oversight Committee of the House. The Oversight of the Committee of the House is Democratic-led. And the Democratic-led committee did not issue a subpoena. So for which Janet Yellen replied, I don't want GOP issuing me a subpoena. If the House Oversight Committee issues a subpoena, then I will produce the documents. So therefore, it is the House Oversight Committee, which is under the control of the Democrats, which refused to issue the subpoena, making the claim that there's no evidence. Now remember, I think this is the next, which is namely, already the advocacy groups in Democratic Party have started to issue or dig in and find out who these Oversight Committee members are and whether they have any kind of dirty linen in their cupboard, and they're trying to do a propaganda. So this is going to be documents released and propaganda being promulgated. So this is the reason why the prima facie, what you call as the evidence that is available from Wells Fargo, could not be produced because no subpoena was issued by the Oversight Committee in government at that point of time, Sriji.
I stand corrected, sir. You're right. I mean, clearly, all the committees were headed by Democrats. I guess that is going to change come January 21st. Right. So that's going to make a difference. So let's wait and see how things play out here. Now, let's take a look at what is happening next. Democratic allied groups have unleashed an aggressive opposition research operation to dig up accusations against House Republicans investigating President Biden. You just alluded to that just now, sir. Now, the illegals are continuing to pour into the country. The crime is just going off the charts. And for some reason, this did not reflect in the verdict, Sridharji. I mean, Republicans are always big on fighting crime. How come?
Well, I think that again, we have covered this in DGI. This is all concentrated around the Democratic mayor cities. It is not in the. It's not happening in Miami. It's not happening in what you call in Houston. It's not happening in Austin. It's not happening in Dallas. But it certainly is happening in Chicago. It's happening in Washington, D.C. It is happening in Minnesota. It is happening even in Atlanta, and it's happening in New York City. So who are all the mayors who are controlling? Defund police. Okay, Release people from the prisons. You remember Mr. Fetterman, who is elected as the senator from Pennsylvania. Release all these people, then there will be no crime. So obviously, 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤 doesn't feature because they all got elected because people chose, those who elected those people chose that to be the right decision.
Well, that is very strange about Fetterman. He had a stroke leading up to the election. Usually, Americans are very conscious about the health of the people who will be serving them in the Senate and the Congress. And amazingly, they still decided to go through. That, again, is a red herring. Sir, you left out the most important city, Portland.
Yes. Portland and Seattle I have excluded, 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤, because I feel that, it's called total permanent damage. So I just don't know whether they're going to ever recover from what has hit them very hard, 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤. Both Seattle as well as Portland, for that matter.
Yes. And India to spend rupees 30,000 crores to expand liquefied natural gas storage infrastructure at 12 major ports. In fiscal year 2021, India imported 33,000 million standard cubic meters of LNG, and in fiscal year 22, it went up to 30,000, or it went down to 30,776, and year to date in fiscal year 23, it is 30,776. Having our own storage is going to help India buffer the pricing, do you think?
Yes, buffer the pricing. Stabilize. This is the reason supply side is the critical thing to contain inflation. One of the few countries that has dealt with this adequately is India. As a large country, it has done is India. India has to be given a lot of credit, be it on the agricultural side, be it on the industrial equipment side. It has played a systematic role in cutting the imports and basically in the process controlling the pricing. So I think it has done something similar even on the oil, which is why they said, hell with the world, and we're going to import the Russian black oil, and then we will kind of refine it and use it. You can't stop me.
Yes, indeed. And the last item is the Chinese conference on Indian Ocean, that they did not actually include India, but they did invite Australia, Maldives, New Zealand, and a few other countries, all of whom stayed away, those perceived to be close to Quad or to America. 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤, China has problems in its own backyard. Why is it doing all these things? I'm just at a loss to understand. I think they're just getting a little bit off of the things are just going off rails here. How can you have an Indian Ocean conference without India, which is the most important player, which has the most amount of region that it can cover in the Indian Ocean?
So the information that I have is that their press release included India, Australia, and Mauritius. And the Indian Ministry for External Affairs rebutted. Australian, even external minister, rebutted. And Mauritius, which is the defense partner for India, said, we never attended any of these kind of events, to the embarrassment. But China never gets embarrassed. It's ready to float lies. It has done that on every sphere and every facet of its business, but somehow everybody conceives that's the normal way to do things. And because the reason is only one, they are maniacal in execution. They will execute. If they have a deal with a nation, they will execute. So when you have execution, their lies are forgiven. This particular issue, India has spearheaded the Indian Ocean Pacific Rim conference, especially around trade and security. United States and all of the Quad members are part of that forum. So it said, hell with it. China, you are trying to butt into our waters. That's all.
Yes, indeed. And that brings us to a close of today's edition. And it ran a little longer, but I hope viewers got their money's worth. We have touched upon a lot of other things that went into this show. But the more important thing is geopolitics is now front and center of our lives. And you get the best stuff from the best team of 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤 and 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤. Thank you very much, 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤. And we'll be back again on Thursday. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙤.